Hello, everyone. Hello. We are about to get started. I am really trying to look at everything, make sure I can figure this out. Um, you guys let me know. Find the chat box. Say hello to everyone. And let me know if you can hear me, if you can see my screen, if you can see the slides. I am trying out this new format. This is brand new for me, where we do these classes from YouTube Live instead of doing Webinar Jam or another type of format. So I'm really excited about this. I feel like this is going to be great. Okay, hello. Hi, everyone. Can you see my additional screen? Because this is definitely different from me. It should say money history. It should say money history where you can see it. Oh, great. You can see my slides. That makes me so happy. I was really trying to make sure that I could figure this out. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys, and this class is going to be on your money history. It's going to be on how your money mindset or how your childhood affects your money mindset, how it affects your money mindset, how the different things that we go through when we are kids can affect your income, can affect the way that you see money, can affect how you spend money, can affect how you save money, how you invest it, how you look at investing overall. It affects everything. And that's why I wanted to do this class. I wanted to jump on and talk about this because this is something that I believe we don't talk about often enough. We will talk about, that we may feel like we're just bad with money, or we feel like we can't get a handle on it. But we may not really dive into the why. Why is this happening to us? And it usually happens because of our childhood, because of what we went through growing up. And it may be no fault of our parents. Sometimes it's just things that happen. So I wanted to talk about these things today so that you can figure out if this is something that's happening with you and how to make the changes. A lot of this information is based on Rachel Cruz's book. She did a book at the beginning of the year that was on your four childhood houses. And so we're going to talk about those different houses. We're going to talk about how this affects you overall. So that's what this class is about. It's absolutely free. And of course, if you have to drop off at any time, it's okay because you can come back. It will be saved to my YouTube channel. All right. So today we're talking about your money house. So this class was basically started off as a conversation between me and my husband. So me and my husband were talking, and I was just asking him different things about his money house growing up. And so I asked him, oh, did your family have money growing up? Like, how did y'all, when you were growing up, how did you feel like y'all had money? And his answer was immediately, yeah, I felt like we had a lot of money. I felt like everything was good. He grew up in a very big home. It was over 4,000 square feet. They had a pool. Both of his parents made a lot of money, and he identified as being wealthy growing up. He identified his home as being a wealthy home growing up. So before we get started, before we jump into anything, I want you to basically tell me in the chat box, do you feel like you grew up in a house that had money, that didn't have money, that it was strained? Like, how was that process for you growing up? So when I asked him immediately, he felt like, yes, they had money growing up. So we know that the way that we grow up does have an overall effect on us. This type of the mindset and the different things that we go through can affect how we spend our money. This can cause us to impulse shop. It can cause you to feel like you have a certain need for your overall lifestyle. Like if you got everything that you wanted growing up, you may feel like, oh, I'm entitled to certain things. Or if you didn't have money growing up, you could also feel like I didn't have money, so now I need to spend my money and I should be able to enjoy it. It also plays into your fears, your anxiety, how much debt you have. There's so much that really happens to us as a kid in our childhood home that we don't even realize is happening until after it happens. I see that a lot of you are saying that you had money, but it was strained, or you didn't have money at all. Strained, but not dirt poor. Your parents always told you that you didn't have money, and we're going to talk about that as well. That even if your parents told you certain things, how that affects us overall. When both of your parents were together, and this is a big thing too. I see that you said that, Anna, when both of your parents were together, yes, y'all had money, but then maybe when they split up, all of a sudden everything changed. And that happens a lot too. I know in my home, we didn't have a lot of money growing when I was younger, but once I got to my teenage years, my dad got a really good job and like everything changed. And so you can have different money houses at different points in time in your life. And so you could grow up half of your life one way and then another half another way. So this definitely can change how your money personality works overall as well. In a house with limited to no money and limited beliefs about money and spending, yes, this happens. My parents worked but didn't teach me and my siblings about bills and such. They just provided for us. And that is a big thing too that we are also going to talk about is if you did have money but you still weren't taught about money, then that can still affect how you look at money right now. It affects how you grew up and how you view money overall. So that is what we are going to talk about all today, right? And we're also going to talk about your definition of success and how you are overall underestimating money, right? So we learned a lot about what was communicated to us with money through our words. So through the words that were actually spoken to us, the different things that were said to us, either around us or to someone else in front of us. That's the first thing. Or by the emotions of other people around us, right? The vibes around us, the negative feelings. So maybe no one is speaking to you specifically about money or about different things that's going on, but you still have a feeling that everything is not on the up and up, right? You still have a feeling that y'all don't have enough, or it's not said, but you know it to be true, right? So that is one thing that can happen as well. So that's the two ways that we learn about money. We learn either through words, what's communicated to us, or we learn by the emotions of other people around us. By the emotions. And I'm sorry, guys, I see that my slide is actually affecting the official slide, but I don't know how to change it. I have to see if I can figure out how to make it to where maybe I'm side by side. Hopefully I can figure that out. Let's see. Can I plus? No, that's not working. I'm going to have to figure it out maybe for the next class. I am so sorry that I am like covering it up, but I don't know how to make myself side by side. I'm going to figure that out for our next class so that I'm not covering up the slide. So I'm apologizing ahead of time for that. I really, really am sorry about that. All right. But I am going to talk each slide through so that you can, know exactly where we are and what we are talking about and what each slide says. And then hopefully for our next class, I'll be able to fix it and I'll be side by side so that I won't be in the way. All right. This video is going to be saved. This video is going to be on my YouTube channel. All right. Let's talk about the different lessons that we may have learned at different times throughout our life. So this goes back into what we were saying before, like Anna's situation. I know my situation. Maybe you grew up at different times and you may have switched money houses. You could have switched money houses. So let's say you started off, maybe y'all didn't have a lot of money growing up. And then when you were 10 or 15, like I was, one of your parents got a really good job and you switched houses. Or your parents divorced and maybe you experienced, maybe your dad had money and your mom didn't, or your mom had money and your dad didn't. That can affect your money house as well, to where, something happened, maybe somebody got sick or something happened and it changed your overall money house. The other thing to remember is that everybody's experience is very different and it depends on how you intake information, which is why we talk about how money history and money personality kind of work together. They work together. So siblings can grow up in the exact same house, have the exact same experiences, and they can both see their childhood money home differently. They could both have two different money personalities, and because they have two different personalities and because they looked at their experiences differently, they could have intake that information in different ways and process it differently and feel like they grew up in different houses. Or they could have seen different things from their parents, right? Like, because maybe one day they were with their mom and they felt like there was a strained relationship or a strained relationship with money. And then the other sibling could have been with their dad and maybe he was a free spender and didn't feel the same way. And he had a full, he was just spending money left and right. So just know that just because you have a sibling or you have kids, or like, people feel and they experience things differently. And because they experience things differently, they may still feel like they had a different relationship with money growing up. So we do need to think about that, all the way. Just because you felt one way about how you grew up does not mean everyone in the house feels the exact same way. And so we're going to talk about the 4 different houses that they are. And we're going to also talk about how you can adjust if you felt like you grew up in a different type of house. Like, if you did experience these things as a child, how do you change that? So here's one thing to remember, though. Even though, no matter what, we're going to talk about 4 houses today. We're going to talk about 4 houses. But no one's money history is perfect. Everybody has challenges to overcome. So just because you felt like, you grew up in the perfect money home does not mean that you have a perfect relationship with money. We all have different things that we have to overcome and figure out, no matter what type of money home we grew up in. So just listen to all 4 of these. I don't want you to beat yourself up. I don't want you to say that it's hopeless or that you can't overcome any of these situations because you grew up in a certain type of house. I don't want you to feel that way. Just know that no matter what the situation is, we can get through it. You can overcome it. You can change your money mindset. It can all be done. It's not a hopeless situation. Just want you to take that into account. No one's money situation is perfect. We all have challenges. Let's talk about the 4 houses that exist. We're going to talk about the 4 houses that exist. First one is the unstable house, the unstable money house. Money causes stress. It wasn't there consistently. I saw a lot of you that said that, there wasn't money in the house. It was a very strained relationship with money. And then usually there are very angry conversations when it comes down to money. You're like, somebody's yelling, somebody's fussing. Anytime money comes up, you can sense the tension that is going on. I'm really sorry if y'all can hear. They're mowing the lawn right now. So I'm really sorry about that. But this is the unstable house. This is the unstable house. The second house is the fearful house. And this is the kid that heard all of the fearful things when it comes around money. Money don't grow on trees. You can't always get it. You got to save and hold on to your money. You can't just spend willy-nilly because they have a fear that when you let go of money, you're never going to get it back. It's never going to come back. And so these are people who usually are very afraid of investing. They are very afraid of spending. They're usually very apprehensive when it comes down to anything that comes down to spending money because they were taught to fear it. They were taught that if money leaves, you're not going to ever be able to get it back. And it is a very scary and like like weird situation to grow up in where you just feel like, oh, it's so untouchable. Money is just so hard to come by. That's the second house. The third one is the unaware house. This is the person where your mom or your dad just provided everything for you and you didn't need to do anything, but you weren't taught about money either. So it wasn't a bad conversation. It wasn't a good conversation. It wasn't a conversation really at all. You have been unaware of how money works for the majority of your life. Money is usually uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable conversation. It's not discussed. We don't talk about how much money people make. We don't talk about, what dad made. We don't talk about the bills. We don't talk about budgeting. We don't talk about anything because it's looked at like politics, religion, or any other taboo topic. It is ignored. And just know that as long as all of your needs are provided for, you shouldn't have any questions. So that is the third house, the unaware house. And the fourth one is the stable house. It's the stable house. And that's where money is discussed openly. We can sit down, we can talk about it. Your questions are answered, and you have healthy money habits. So we're going to get into all four of these houses and the characteristics of these houses. We're also going to talk about, if you are in any one of these houses, the pros and cons of these and how you can overcome them. All right. So let's start with thinking about the houses overall. Know this, you can easily misidentify your house. I want y'all to put in the chat box what house you think you are a part of. So I'm gonna go back. Let's see. What house do you think you're a part of? I want you to put it in there now. And then at the end of the class, I want to still see if you feel like you're still a part of that exact same house. So it's the unstable, the fearful house, the unaware house, or the stable house. Remember that you could be a part of two. You could have been a part of two at any point in time, or you could have been a part of all four at any point in time. But if you feel like there is one that was really your house, put it in the chat box. I want to still see if you think the exact same thing by the end of the class, all right? I've got a room in each house. I hear you, Mary. Mary said I got a room in each house. But that is definitely the case for a lot of us. I see a lot of us are saying unaware or the fearful house, which, a lot of kids grow up in that house because sometimes I feel like parents don't want to include their kids. They don't want them to worry. But the thing is that many times we don't want our kids to worry about money because we don't want them to, obsess over it. But then when they turn 18 or 19 or 20, we send them out and then they have to figure it all out. And they have to figure out debt and they have to figure out credit cards and they have to figure it all out on their own. So it's better to start them young and start teaching them now. But a lot of us didn't have that ability to be able to talk those things. So let's talk about it. We can easily misidentify our house. So this is why I'm telling you to write down what house you have now. because I want to ask you at the end if you still feel like you have the same type of house. Because many times we think that we know what type of house that we grew up in, but it's all based on our memory, right? It's all based on what we think we remember about certain aspects of our growing, of us growing up. But there are some things that have happened in the subconscious. There may be just some memories that are, sitting at the forefront. Like we really remember this one thing, but there could have been a whole bunch of other things that happened that we just don't remember. So I want you to listen carefully to all four of these, so that you can really see if what is your money house. And then we could talk about the pros and cons and the things that you can help, to work on if you need to help yourself over any of the cons. All right. So let's talk about it. And I'm going to talk about with my husband. He did give me permission to use his story. But my husband, I told you he identified himself as the wealthy house. It was a wealthy house. And me and my husband were talking about taking our kids to Disney World. And he mentioned that going to Disney World was one of his favorite vacations as a kid. He talked about his family getting like the matching T-shirts with their names embroidered on the back. He mentioned how going on all the rides and how it was really hot that summer. And he remembered the road trips. He remembered the music that they played in the car. He's just like, it was just such an amazing time that they had at Disney World. And then he remembered coming home. He remembered coming home. And he said when they got home, his parents were really, really quiet. They got really, really quiet, and they appeared to be angry with each other. And this is because when they got home, their electricity was cut off. He said that they went on this really big vacation. They had a bunch of fun. It was amazing. But they used money from their electricity bill to pay for the vacation. And so, since they used that money and they got home and everything was cut off, now the vibe completely changed. All the happiness just went away because now they went from really, really happy to really, really upset. His parents switched immediately and everybody in the house got really, really tense. My husband is on. My husband is on. But this shows you that even though originally he identified his house as a wealthy house or a stable home, or he felt like they had money, that it was unstable because they went from really, really high to super, super fun, super happy, everybody's spending all of this money, to a really low point because money was unstable. It was unstable. And so this could be one of the houses that can affect how children grow up in their house. And especially if this affected you, then I know with my husband, it affected how he viewed money for a while. Right? It affected how he viewed money for a while because he felt like, okay, we just have to, if we spend all the money, we just got to go out and make more. But he wasn't really on budgeting because in his house, budgeting wasn't really a thing. It was just whenever you run out of money, you just go make some more money and then you spend all of that money too. Right? So once we ended up talking, we realized that his money house was an unstable one. And even though his parents made a lot of money, they spent it. So even though you made a lot, you still spent a lot. And so that means you go back and forth constantly. You go from having a lot of money to having nothing, and you waiting till Friday, and then you have money again, and now you feel like you're on top of the world, and then you don't have money again right after the weekend or after the next week when you are working. Yeah. And that's the thing. It did suck, like when your parents are working really hard and that they make a lot of money, but it's difficult when you feel as though you just need to keep making more because it's never enough. It's never enough. Right. And so that's what, me and him ended up really working on, is that mindset of, oh, we'll never have enough. So originally, I said he identified his money house as a wealthy one or a stable one because he was remembering the trip to Disney World. He was remembering the 4,000 square foot home and the pool and all of the great things that they had growing up. And it was great. It was great. But because of the automatic switch, the back and forth, it was considered unstable. It wasn't a stable home. It was unstable because even though they had money, they had it in spurts. They had it, it would go up and down, it would go up and down. And so you really got to dig deep to see, was it always stable at all times or was it not? Yeah. And it can have an effect. It did have an effect on his parents' marriage as well, where they would be really happy and then they would be upset with each other, or, they would just, be angry because of this up and down. So, people who grow up, if you grew up in an unstable house, um, this is usually the characteristics of people who have grown up in an unstable house. You will hear your parents arguing over money. You hear the arguments that come around money. You feel as though you can't ask for anything. So you may, feel like you just need to kind of figure it out on your own or not ask at all because you don't want to cause any issues by asking anything, by asking for money. Your money decisions are usually very tense conversations. So money decisions are like everybody's has clenched fists, and it's a very, very tense conversation when you're talking about money. Money is usually here one day and gone the next. You live check to check. If you did this growing up, you probably had a lot of money or a lot of food at the beginning of the month. And then as the month goes on, or as the paycheck kind of dwindles out, you didn't feel like you had as much. You have really high highs and really low lows. This is another aspect of just having an unstable household, and you usually hear your parents complaining about the bills. This is the characteristics of an unstable house. So, how does it affect you? You don't like to talk about money. You usually feel those negative emotions when money topics come up. You have a difficult time expressing your feelings, or especially if you have any type of money challenge. You feel like growing up could have really felt like an emotional roller coaster, right? Because you feel like you're just kind of going all over the place whenever it comes down to money. You usually go between negative and positive really, really quickly. You expect conflict when it comes down to money, and you may just stop caring at all and just be like, you know what, YOLO, whatever. It's fine, right? So that is how an unstable household would work. I remember when me and my husband, when we first got married, anytime I would try and just talk about money, he would instantly shut down on me. And I'm like, wait, why are you shutting down? We're just talking. But he thought it was going to become an argument. He thought that we were going to start to argue, just even though I'm just talking, because we were talking about money. Because we were talking about money. So that's how this can affect you. And that's how you really need to think about if this is something that affects you. How can you overcome this? There are three things that you can do that will help you overcome the unstable household, or the emotions that come along with the unstable household. Number one, you want to engage. Embrace those money conversations. You have the power to change it. You have to take your time with it. I know, me and my husband, we would just have little spurts where we would talk about his childhood and talk about what happened. Why? Well, okay, what are you feeling right now? What's happening right now? What's going through your mind? And embrace those, different conversations that you need to have, even though they may be hard for you. Embrace learning. The more you learn about money, the more you know about yourself, the more you kind of figure out your emotions, the better you will be when it comes down to money. Because a lot of times we are thinking that we already, this is just the way I am. But really, you can learn how to adjust and how to get better in those situations. And remember your experience. Don't minimize your experience. Don't put it on the back burner. Don't say, oh, that was just then and now it's fine. I can just get past it. Really, you have to remember those experiences. You have to process them. You have to think about what they really meant to you and how they made you feel so that you can make adjustments in the future. The second house is the fearful house. This is the fearful house. Now, with this particular house, you are afraid to talk about money at all. Money is a very fearful topic. And I had a friend in high school that had a very, very stable childhood. She was basically given anything that she wanted. If she wanted it, she got it. She had the best birthday parties. We loved going to her house. Everything was like in free fall. We had all the snacks. It was great. But her family didn't talk about money much. She just knew that they had it. They had it. They had money until her dad lost his job. When her dad lost his job, like everything changed. Everything changed for her house. Her mom started saying stuff like, money don't grow on trees. They ended up moving. They had to move from a home to an apartment, and anxiety was really, really high. Big changes were made without discussion. Big changes were made without discussion at all. And she became very afraid of money. This is because she went from not knowing anything, feeling very carefree, to feeling very limited. She had a huge money fear because of the complete switch that happened immediately. How does money fear affect you? I saw that a nice number of you said that you had money fear, that, money was a very fearful topic. If you have this, these are usually the characteristics that kind of come along with that. You stress excessively. You stress all the time about money, even if you have it. You're always scared about money. You constantly worry about getting into debt. You're constantly afraid that something's going to happen with your money. You hesitate in discussing your finances with family or friends. You believe that discussing your finances in the open will make you look financially weak. So you're afraid of any type of topics that come around with money. You overwork yourself and you always think that you don't have enough money. You usually tend to overspend. And this is the feeling of not having enough can trigger you to spend more money when you actually do have it. So you go back and forth between the two. You usually will overwork yourself because you always think that you don't have enough. You could hoard. Let's say you hoard money, you become a workaholic, thinking that you need more and more and more. You may feel obligated to support other people. This is like if you're a parent, you have adult children, you may feel obligated to support your children even though they are adults. You could hide purchases from your spouse. You may feel like you can't make more money or you aren't smart enough to make more money, and you may not invest. So I know in the beginning of my childhood, I had more of a fearful type mindset. And this is because I always, would overthink. My parents would like make us really think about how we were spending money. And it was because we had a scarcity mindset. Like we were just so afraid of not having enough. And that's the thing about money. Money is a tool. It is a resource. It is replenishable. The only thing that's not is time. Time is the only thing that is not replenishable. Health is not replenishable. Like sometimes you can't get certain things back. You could get your health back. You could get money back. You cannot get time back. Time is one of your most valuable resources. But when it comes down to your money, money comes back. It does. It is all based on our mindset and what we believe we can do. But it can be changed. Your situation is not, it doesn't have to stay that way. So, if you have a money fear, how do you overcome your money fear? You need to build routines around your money. I am a huge believer. If you follow me for any amount of time, you know that I talk about routines a lot. And this is because routines provide predictability, stability. They really help you out if you're an anxious person. I am recovering a really anxious person, but I did grow up with a lot of anxiety around almost anything. I could really think my way into the worst possible situations, and I used to really think my way into a lot of anxiety, especially when it came down to our money. But routines helped me out so much with that. Building an emergency fund. Having an emergency fund will really help you out if you struggle with fear around money. And when I talk about emergency fund, I am talking about not just this blanket random always saving number that's in your head. I think you need to really come up with a solid number. And I have a couple of videos on this, but the first one that I would really highly suggest that you watch is how to create a starter emergency fund. I believe that's the title of it. And with that one, I go through the different things that you should be putting aside for your emergency fund. So look up how to start an emergency fund on my channel, and that will help you. But you need to know your secure number. You need to know that number that makes you feel like, okay, I'm secure in this number. And you have to know how to take mental breaks. You definitely have to know how to take mental breaks. Practicing gratitude, and I know that, a lot of people talk about mental, like gratitude and meditation and stuff like that, but it helps. It really helps. It doesn't make your money issues go away, but it does help you to reflect on things that really matter, and it helps you to get a clearer mind when it comes down to money issues. So a lot of times I know when I'm talking to clients, we'll instantly start thinking about the worst case scenario, or we'll start thinking about how we cannot do it and what we can't make and what we can't. Oh, I'm never going to be able to make more money, or I can't budget and I can't save. And we put ourselves in this mental space that is self-defeating. Like we've decided that we can't do it, and so it's almost impossible to get past that mental state. So meditation and practicing gratitude is a great way. I rely heavily on my faith planner in order to do this, but I'm constantly in this space where I am just, even if I got to talk to myself and talk myself out of the mental place where I have talked myself into, and practicing gratitude and being grateful for what we already have is the perfect way in order to get out of that fearful mindset, because it's just fear. And fear will always have you thinking about what's the worst that could possibly happen, but we need to switch it and just say, well, what's the best that could happen? Good things could happen too. Good things could happen too. So let's practice gratitude as much as possible. Practice meditation as much as possible, especially if you feel that anxiety coming on and you feel like you cannot do something. It's good to stop yourself and just try and practice gratitude. So those are the three ways, the best ways to overcome the fearful house, because the fearful house is one that makes you think negatively about money. And so you have to build those routines, find that emergency fund, and practice as much gratitude as possible. Email me if you wanted to get this PowerPoint. I'm going to put it on my, sorry, let's see. I'm going to put it on my, put it in the chat box too. So you could definitely see it, and you can definitely catch on that. All right, I can email it to you. Let's talk about the third house. The third house is the unaware house. The unaware house. Now, this is the house that if you grew up and money wasn't discussed, y'all didn't talk about it. No one talked about it. It was a topic that may have been pretty taboo, but you may have not even thought about money at all. Everything may have seemed totally fine, or everything could have been uh, a complete mess, right? It could have been all over the place, or it could have been perfect. But guess what? You have no idea because you were completely unaware of how your of the house that you grew up in. You didn't know how the money was going at all. There was no open conflict about money. There was no open conflict about money. So if your parents were arguing, no one told you. So you didn't know at all. And so I know a lot of times people will say this feels like a good environment when it comes down to money. But Um, when I was reading this, and it's from Rachel Cruz's book. I mentioned that at the top of this class. So if you've never heard of her class, her book, Know Yourself, Know Your Money, this is where we get these concepts from. This type of environment reminds me of a group of people on a party boat without a captain. This is what she says in the book. Everyone is having a great time. They're enjoying the sunset, but no one knows where they are going. No one is leading, and no one wants to. Why rock the boat with questions and start giving directions? Everyone is happy, so let's just let the good times roll. Meanwhile, the boat is drifting and no one cares. This is an exact pull from the book. And this is what it's like to live in an unaware house. In an unaware house, it seems like it's pretty good if you don't have to worry about money at all. And it seems like it's pretty good if you don't have to think or be concerned with it. But the issue is that you're not going anywhere. No one knows how we're doing. No one knows if you're on track for retirement. No one knows if you're saving for college education, or if something happens to someone who is the primary breadwinner. What about life insurance? What about, like, do you have life insurance? If you do, where's the paperwork? How is this thing going to float? Is there a will? There are so many things that could happen that can disrupt and really sink this boat and really hurt the home. But if everyone is living in this unaware state, then you have no way of figuring that out. So unaware house is just as harmful as the first two that we have talked about, the unstable one and the fearful house. So at some point, someone needs to lead the conversation. Someone needs to talk about it. Where is this boat going? Do we have enough supplies? Like, who's going to take charge if a storm comes? What about food? And that's what I'm saying. What about life insurance? What about the will? What about if something happens to someone? How are we all going to survive? If dad is the only one that makes money and something happens to him, how are you going to make it? How are we going to steer this boat? So this is something that you need to think about when we are talking about the unstable household. So I also had a friend who said her house was happy and wonderful growing up because her parents never fought about money. She was spoiled. She wasn't spoiled, but she did have everything that she needed. They took vacations all the time. Her mom told her that the way to a happy home and a happy marriage was not to discuss things that would cause tension. So they didn't talk about money because she wanted her marriage to be a happy one. Um, Anytime they were lacking, her mom just used the credit card. She didn't talk to her dad about it. She just would use a credit card and they would figure it out. And now she realizes as an adult that her family was not in a good financial situation. They had a lot of credit card debt, they had very little in savings, they almost had no retirement, and they still don't talk about money. They still don't talk about money. So it's like the boat is just wandering all over the place and no one wants to talk about it. So if you grew up in this type of household, how does it affect you? What happens? Usually you feel betrayed. Usually you do feel betrayed. You feel betrayed because your parents didn't teach you how to handle money. You feel like they lacked or they didn't give you what you needed in order to survive. You don't have a lot of knowledge and you don't know how to really handle or use money. So usually you fluctuate. You'll fluctuate between overspending, undersaving. You won't really try and multiply your wealth. You don't try and make more money because you really don't know how. You really feel behind the ball, as like you feel like you're just starting out as you get older. And usually this costs you more. So because you don't understand how money works, you're usually trying to figure it out as an adult. And so it costs you way more. You don't understand interest rates. So you usually get trapped into random money schemes and you need to learn as you go. And so it's harder when you're trying to learn these lessons through experience instead of someone kind of walking you through them. How do you overcome? How do you overcome? You try not to ignore your money. Ask yourself why you're doing this. You could start tracking. Start tracking the different things on your phone. You need to add reminders to your phone. Keep yourself accountable. You want to start learning as much as possible. Read books, watch YouTube videos, come to Monday classes. Do as much as you can to try and learn as much as you can. And talk to somebody you trust. The person that you talk to don't have to actually fix your problems. They don't have to fix your problems, but you want to be able to talk to different people that could possibly help you out. And the last money home, the fourth money home that we're going to talk about today is the stable house. And this is where money is discussed openly, emotionally calm environment. It's not perfect, but the family does practice healthy money habits. Now, this was probably my teenage years to my adult years where we actually got to the stable money household and my parents did talk a lot about money. We started off in the fearful one and ended up here once my parents really started learning about money. Now, this may not be all of us, but it's okay. It's something that we all want to acquire and get to. The stable money household is you don't have to really be wealthy. This is not a wealthy household per se. It's about habits. So as long as they have healthy habits, it can be considered a healthy, stable household, and it's not about how much money you have. Your kids are usually included in the financial journey. You tell them more about what's going on with money. You tell them about your financial journey. You tell them about debt. You talk about bills. You talk about budgeting. You talk about all those things with your kids because parents are very open in this household and they're usually discussing these type of things at the table. How does this affect you? Even though this is a money stable household, it can still affect you. You can still very much underestimate what it takes in order to create this type of household. Just because your parents are good with money doesn't mean that you will automatically be good with money. This was my issue when I first started. I instantly thought, well, my parents taught me all that I needed to know, so I'm good with money automatically. And I was not. I was definitely not. I made a lot of mistakes thinking that I just had it. Like I just knew what to do. And the second issue that I had was I felt very entitled. I was used to having a certain type of house. I was used to having the certain type of things. I was used to being pretty pampered or being able to get things that I want. But my parents worked and sacrificed for those things so that I was able to get them. And I didn't realize that I didn't have the same standard of living. Like I thought that I could automatically do that, but I wasn't making the money that they were making in order to provide those things. So you could feel very entitled and feel like you deserve a certain type of lifestyle. How do you overcome these things? You will still need to apply the principles that your parents taught you. You still need to be very disciplined and focused. Write down your lessons, write down your goals, write down the things that you need to reflect on a consistent basis. And remember that their journey is not your journey. You're still on a different path and a different journey than the one that your parents took. So you still have your own. What does this mean? As you think through your childhood, so now that we have talked about all four of these money households, as you think through your childhood, I want you to think about where you end up now. Like I told you, I started off in the fearful household, and now I consider myself in a stable, I ended in a stable one. And now I'm creating that stable household for my kids. If your parents got divorced or married, like you know that you could have been in any one of these houses at any point in time. You could have been in any one of these houses at any point in time. So you really want to reflect. You want to think about, what does this mean for you? And think about the pros and cons that we talked about, and think about, okay, what adjustments that you may need to make. We have talked about learning more. We've talked about like your mindset shifts and how you may need to create affirmations, or may need to be writing down what you're grateful for. You can do a bunch of different things as well in order to get back on track. Remember this, your childhood does not define you. It does. Just because you grew up in any one of these houses, it doesn't decide how you're going to handle money now. This is a starting point. This is a starting point. How you handle your money right now is just a starting point. And so what we talked about today, really just helps you to understand how you are wired, how you may be handling money. Like we talked about money personality, and how your money personality may just be how you were born. And this is the same thing with your money history. Just because you have a certain money history does not mean that you're doomed with money. You can change, you can adjust. The first thing that you need to do is just know. And that's what the point of this class is. It's not to make you feel bad about what house you grew up in. It is literally just to help you to know where you are starting, right? So you get to decide what your money relationship is in the future. You get to decide how you're going to adjust. You get to decide how you're going to change. All right. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this entire class. Remember that if you wanted to watch any of the playback, it will be available on my site. It will be available on my YouTube channel. At the end of this live, you can definitely go back and watch the replay. I will probably email it out as well. If you want a copy of the slides, make sure that you join my mailing list. On my mailing list, I am going to send out the replay along with the slides tomorrow. I'm going to send out both tomorrow so that you have access to both. All right. If y'all have any questions, let me know. Let me know. Please let me know. I will try and stay on for another 4 minutes to see if you have any questions. And then we will end our class today. This was also an insert from our budget on paper class. So with the budget on paper class, I do start off talking about your money history, your money personality, and how it overall affects you. So if you wanted to find out or take the class or find out more about the class, then I will leave the information in the description box, and I will also leave more information about Tom Academy. Okay, so thank you all so much. And Tom Academy is getting a revamp. It's my Patreon, and we're about to change that membership. I'm about to adjust it because I want to make the classes much easier for you guys to access. So I will be talking more about that as well. Thank you so much. I'm so We'll also check. Yes, check out Rachel Cruz's book as well. Really great. Know Yourself, Know Your Money. She has a lot of stories in there that are really super helpful. So I'm glad that you all enjoyed this one, and I will see you guys. We will start them on Mondays, on YouTube Live. So if y'all like them on YouTube Live, please leave a comment on this video. Let me know that this format works for you. I just would love to hear from you guys. All right. Oh, how do you get on my mailing list? Let me see if I can send it to you. I'm gonna put the link in. I'll put the link in the chat box in 1 second so that you are able to access it. Oh. It's on my website, theorganizedmoney.com, and then there is a link to my mailing list. But I'm going to see if I could just pull the link really quick so that you are able to just access it. Sorry, I think it's because I'm streaming. My computer is going pretty slow. Oh, here it is. Let's see. All right. Thank you. Please like this video on YouTube too. That's great. Yes, I think YouTube Live is going to work out well. And then you can come back and watch the replays as well. I am going to change up some of the things that the people in Patreon or my membership get so that you can really have access to all of the different formats and the different things that I offer. All right. So thank you all so much, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.